Hi, I'm Gabriel and this is Learning English Path. And in this lesson, I'm going to teach you all about Chinese New Year, the vocabulary, the English vocabulary for many different things to do with the Chinese New Year, or as they say in China, Spring Festival. All right, so we're about to have Spring Festival in China, and this is the time of year when the Chinese celebrate the Chinese New Year and the coming of spring. Now, it's the Chinese New Year when the lunar calendar is starting over. All right, so the Chinese New Year, traditionally, it goes by the lunar calendar, and we'll get into that. So as you might know about me, I lived in China for 8 years, and it's something that I celebrated a lot with Chinese people and in China, Spring Festival in several different places in China. So this is a video that I've been looking forward to making for a while. I actually wanted to release it last year, but it didn't happen. This year, I knew I needed to do it. So here we go. Before we get into some of the other vocabulary, please consider joining the English Speaking Club. It's a club where you get to speak with me on WhatsApp every single day and practice your English speaking, be corrected in your English language, and you learn many, many new things for less than $1 every single day. And you get to meet many new people as well. All right, there's the link. Now, a calendar, right? This is actually the calendar for 2019, and this is a traditional calendar. But of course, in China, they do use the Western calendar these days, right? This is the Western kind of globally accepted calendar now, but the Chinese do have their own variation on it, and the Chinese New Year is different every year, but it usually happens between the end of January and the middle of February. That's when the new Chinese New Year begins, the Lunar New Year. So, calendar. The Chinese Zodiac. This is for, you may understand this through astrology, right? So if you know your Chinese sign, then you might know a little bit about the Chinese Zodiac. So if you were born in a certain year, in a certain Chinese calendar year, then you will have a certain animal. So, for example, I was born in 1985, and so my animal is the ox, right? And so every 12 years, it's the year of the ox. The year of the ox comes around, and it's supposed to be your lucky year, right? But every year there are new things that are supposed to happen in your life, depending on which animal in the Chinese Zodiac you belong to, right? Hometown. So every year, billions of Chinese people make trips. Actually, many hundreds of millions of Chinese people, but it's estimated about 3 billion trips will be made during this week, back and forth between where someone works and where someone's hometown is, where someone currently lives and their hometown. This is a tradition that happens every year. The trains are super busy. The buses are super busy. Even the planes, super busy, right? This is when people book their trips back to their hometown to spend the Chinese New Year with their family, okay? And hometown means where someone was born and usually raised as well. So hometown. A red envelope or a red envelope. This is what people give each other instead of presents. They give each other money, and they put the money in the red envelopes. And usually, there are different different traditions about who should give who a red envelope and how much should be given and when you should give it to those people. Usually it's at dinner time, the Chinese New Year dinner. And usually it's the older generation giving the red envelopes to the younger generations. So they will, the younger people will be having dinner at the house of their parents or maybe their grandparents. And then those parents or grandparents will give red envelopes with some money to the younger generation who have often spent money coming back to the hometown as well. Firecrackers. Now, this is interesting because in the last couple of years, the firecrackers have really kind of, I don't know if it's the same everywhere, but they are not as present as they once were. When I first came to China in 2012, every year for a few years, the amount of firecrackers that would go off at midnight when it turned into Chinese New Year was incredible. There were so many, and it was so loud, and they would go on for a while at midnight, and nobody could sleep through them, right? And the next morning, it looked like there was an explosion of red roses all over the streets, and the cleaners would have to clean them up for a long time. But these days, I think they have stopped doing them. I think it's actually become illegal now to do it because it's so dangerous. Of course, it's very dangerous. You can actually even get killed playing with firecrackers and doing it incorrectly. So maybe not as much of a tradition anymore, but it certainly was when I first got to China. Fireworks. There are still fireworks in the big cities, and certainly these are illegal for most people to have by themselves nowadays, but there will still be certain fireworks shows that where people who are trained to use them will set off the fireworks in China. Chinese lanterns, okay? These are very traditional lanterns that you would put a message in, and you would set them off into the air. You may have seen them. They will float and drift through the air, through the night sky, until you can't see them anymore, carrying your wish or your message, whatever it is, before it finally burns out and crashes somewhere. Of course, we have the dragon, the traditional Chinese dragon that is it's a sign of luck. It's a lucky symbol in China. It's a lucky animal, and the dragon is supposed to bring in a fortunate new year for the people of China, or the people who see the dragon. And they have these in the Chinese New Year parties or parades that you'll see. Some fantastic beautiful ones you will see in China. Some huge ones as well, much bigger than these. These are quite small, but still very attractive looking, these dragons. And yes, you can even get in them like this. Dumplings, very traditional to eat dumplings in China at Chinese New Year. And this will have something inside it, maybe meat like pork, or maybe it will have vegetables in it, or maybe it will be a sweet dumpling, right? You steam these dumplings, you put them in this container, you steam them and eat them, usually a few at a time. And so you can get sweet ones like sweet beans, sweet red beans. They like that over in China. Or, like I said, meat or vegetables. You also have sweet rice balls. And these are lucky to eat in China around Chinese New Year. They are, they love their rice in China. And so you roll up these rice bowls, and there is a process to make them sweet. There's actually a lot of traditional food eaten at Chinese New Year, and but this is one of the most traditional ones, and they are sticky and sweet, and yeah, I can only eat a couple at a time, but some people can eat many of these sweet rice bowls at Chinese New Year. You also have rice cake, which is very similar. Again, they like their rice, and they like to make certain sweet rice dishes in China, especially at Chinese New Year. All right, so those are just a few of the most traditional words for when you're talking about Chinese New Year. Now, if you want, remember, you can join the English Speaking Club, which is in the description. Or if you just want to get this guide for free, you can do that. Get sent right to your email address, 101 Songs to Learn English, where you have plenty of exercises to expand your English knowledge with songs. And please do subscribe to this channel. Really helps to get more people to join our English speaking community, right? And give this video a like, click that notification bell, and keep learning, my friend, and keep going.